Hello, and welcome to day 2 of the U.S. National Academy of Medicine's workshop, The What of Systems Transformation, Anchoring Climate Action in Health. My name is Michele Toplitz, and I am the Program Director of the NAM's Roadmap for Transformative Action to Achieve Health for All at Net Zero Emissions, or the Roadmap for short. Thanks to those of you who are rejoining us following yesterday's sessions, and welcome to everyone who is tuning in for the first time. We're so pleased that you're joining us from all around the world. As you may know, this workshop is the first in a 4-part series to inform development of the roadmap. The workshops will take place over the course of the next year as we advance this ambitious work to catalyze transformative change at the intersection of climate and health. Before we get started, I'd like to briefly review a few housekeeping items. For your awareness, this workshop is being recorded. The video and speaker slides will be made publicly available on the NAM website. If you have questions at any time, you may email NAM staff at namclimateroadmap@nas.edu. And finally, throughout the workshop, there will be multiple ways you can engage using Slido. You can find Slido immediately below where you're watching the live stream. In this platform, participants can pose questions, offer comments, and even upvote what others have said. The platform is very simple to use. To join, please simply enter your name, check the box, and click Join Slido. Once you join, the blue bar just beneath the video player has options for Q&A and polls. There'll be an audience Q&A towards the end of each workshop session. At any time during the session, participants may insert a comment or question using the Q&A function. Towards the end of each session, the moderator will pose questions from the audience to the speakers. Participants will also have the opportunity to respond to a few polls. You'll be able to toggle back and forth between the Q&A and polls tabs as needed. We hope you'll take advantage of this interactive feature today. So building on yesterday's sessions on systems change for climate and health and opportunities for transformation across the high-emitting sectors, we have an equally exciting lineup today. We'll begin with session 3, Lessons for Transformative Climate Health Action. We'll hear from leaders at the international, national, and subnational levels, reflecting on key learnings from systems level change that can be applied when integrating health into climate action. After a short break, we'll then transition into session 4, Positioning Health as a Bridge Between Sectors and Systems, where speakers will discuss how reframing health beyond traditional boundaries can help catalyze collective action to address climate change while also maximizing health co-benefits. Then we'll conclude the workshop with reflections and a synthesis of key themes, looking forward to our second workshop in July. So before we jump into that, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Dan Kammen, Lau Distinguished Professor of Sustainability and Director of the Center for Environmental Policy at the University of California, Berkeley. Dan is also a co-lead of the planning committee for this workshop, and he will share a brief recap of day 1 and speak to some emerging themes as we head into another day of engaging conversations. So Dan, over to you.
Michele, thank you so much for introducing me, and thanks to the whole National Academy of Medicine team for putting this together. I want to thank them. In particular, I'd like to thank our speakers who really represent some critical lessons, and I hope that you'll all get a chance to think about, interrogate, and send questions back. And leads me to my kind of third just opening, and that is, this is really, as Michele highlighted and as you heard yesterday, a dialogue and an integrative approach to thinking about the climate health nexus. And so we're particularly keen to get your insights, perspectives, and in particular, what you think are the actionable aspects of both the basic science and the applied science of this junction point. And so I don't think I can summarize in 8 to 10 minutes everything that went on in yesterday's rich conversation, but there are a couple themes that to me stood out, and I'm hoping they'll help to motivate sort of some of your thinking and some of your engagement, both during the rest of today and in the process going forward. For me, the first part of the story is that we have both a climate and a health crisis on our hands. Some of us see the climate crisis as the leading issue, some see health, and I think that's actually a healthy part of the starting ground here. This is, of course, a marathon and not a sprint, but it means that we need to take positive steps to deal with some of the immediate crises, be they COVID or related to housing or changes in particular issues around water or land or agriculture, but also how do we accelerate the pace of change? And I say that because the climate story, if we looked at only that, is of course grim. We're in a situation where the current set of actions, not taking into account what might or may not be changing in a couple key governments, including our own, but on that basis, we are on a pathway now to 3 or 4 degrees Celsius of average heating, which is catastrophic for humans, ecosystems, and the climate. And we are in a situation where the most optimistic paths we put together would only lead us down to perhaps 2 degrees. And of course, we're not on pace for that now. So we need to find these synergies and these action points where we can accelerate both the health and the climate story. And indeed, in the key words that Andy Haynes said yesterday, and that is that we are in a situation where if we were to make good on the climate change opportunities in terms of deploying clean energy, focusing on transforming our systems, decarbonizing them, the health benefits that we calculate would pay for the entire transition. That's a wonderful economics first perspective, but it's also one that really highlights the degree to which we are not doing enough integrative and systems thinking. Because if the efforts in one regime could pay for the benefits in the other, surely we need better accounting, better understanding of the impacts. And I think each of our speakers in this session are going to speak to past examples of how that transformative systems thinking, which is a great word to say. I suspect all of us have used those words in slides, but those words at a general level don't do us the good in detail of, okay, how do I make a specific investment, be it in an energy system, a water system, an agricultural system, a medical system, to capture those benefits? And I think that that's one thing that I'm most excited about, having seen some of the slides from the speakers already. The second critical integrative point in my perspective is that when we think about these changes, at least on the climate side, we often think of those things that are mitigation, decarbonizing our system, in one bucket, and adaptation. How do we make our systems more climate smart, systems smarter in general, on the adaptation side of the equation? And almost all of our current effort, insufficient that it is, has focused on the mitigation side. As a physicist working on energy and decarbonization, I am guilty as charged in focusing most of my effort on that mitigation side, and nowhere near enough on the adaptation, meaning how could climate smart health systems contribute to lower emissions, but how could they also make communities more resilient in the process of understanding those linkages, whether it's the financial story from Andy Haynes' comment yesterday, or this broader issue that the savings would be an ability to leverage faster change than we're doing today. The other aspect of the story is one of my unfortunate favorite quotes from the futurist William Gibson, and that is, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. And to me, the critical part of Gibson's comment is that we see all around us examples of just exceptional change. We see opportunities where individual cities or regions have accelerated the deployment of solar energy, or have been leaders in battery technology, or are hospitals that are doing integrated health assessment so that they are seeing not only the benefits of their medical interventions, but they're also seeing the opportunities for behavioral change, for investing in communities that we intentionally or unintentionally, unfortunately, often intentionally, marginalize from the process. In the United States, for example, the deployment of solar power is dramatically biased to the current haves. Whiter and more affluent communities dominate the deployment of solar, of electric vehicles. The newest battery systems that reduce air pollution around hospitals and clinics overwhelmingly installed in the more affluent, more privileged communities. Investing in those marginalized communities is a place where I think you'll hear from each of our panelists, the opportunities are huge, and due to various excuses, funding, accessibility, empowerment, we have intentionally or not left them behind in the process. And I think that's really a critical feature. And so if I could just leave us all with one plea for today, it would be to take a look at the lessons that you've seen from the Club of Rome, from efforts to be smarter about agriculture, about community level projects, about the lessons from urban communities, about the lessons in South Africa and Kenya and Mozambique and Nicaragua and Chile. How can we be more inclusive of the real clever innovations that have shown they have legs, but we have not worked hard enough to integrate into the story? And of course, for me, my sort of closing comment here would be that we now know quite clearly that the richest 10% of the world are responsible for well over half of greenhouse gas emissions, and the poorest 50% of the planet are responsible for less than 7%. And so our inequalities multiply on both the climate and the energy side of the story. And if there's one thing that I'm hoping that comes out of today, it's a synthesis and a platform to build together more and more of these lessons, with the recognition that, as well as we've done in any given sector, the rise of electric vehicles or more sustainable approaches to critical materials or building materials, that health is a critical integrator. It's a place that everyone has a direct and immediate stake, and that immediate stake is a way to enable and empower longer term action that both makes healthcare more equitable and more cost effective, but also leads us to a place where this net zero pathway that looked challenging 10 years ago, but which we know today is possible, becomes our leading approach to investing in energy, infrastructure, all manner of issues. And so again, I want to welcome to today's sessions, thank our Academy, but really we're leaning on you, the audience, to find the places to integrate and to bring lessons together, both in your own use and as we kind of build a living interactive database of these types of opportunities. So thank you and welcome to day 2. Over to you, Michele.